Why should $175 billion of my tax money go overseas to somebody who isn't me? That's a great question, and it gets even worse. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 may have put a little bit of extra cash into your pocket, but nowhere near as much as the corporations or the top 1%. It's really bad. The corporate tax rate got cut from 35% to 21%, and the average tax rate for the top 1% went down from about 27.1% to 26.1% or even lower. If you add up how much in record-breaking profits that these corporations and 1%ers got to keep, it's about $170 billion every single year since 2018. That's about 7 tax years. You multiply that by the $170 billion and you have over $1 trillion that just went to these people and did not get reinvested into the American economy. So the wealthy have you guys looking at the $175 billion that was spent in 3 years instead of the $1.1 trillion that was taken away from you in 7 years. And that $1.1 trillion that you guys lost is biting you in the butt every single year. Let me show you our deficit. This year, right here, that is 2017. This is 2018. So you could see our deficit was about to hit 1 trillion. And then 2019, the deficit dropped all the way down to $3.2 trillion. And we haven't seen a deficit spike like this since World War II. And every single year, those tax cuts still exist. We are in a deficit that is still exceeding about 1.5 trillion bucks. Whenever we have a deficit, that means we have to issue debt and borrow to pay for this country's government's expenditures. And that's why we have an astronomically high $36 trillion in debt today. This debt is just to fund the wealthy not paying their fair share, but it gets even worse. When our country has to borrow money, that means we're paying interest. Well, the interest payments that we make every year is so high, it is touching about $900 billion. And again, this is just to service our debt to pay the interest. That $900 billion does not go into any infrastructure or anything that helps the American people. And what is used to pay our interest payments for this debt? Your tax dollars in federal revenue, which the corporations and the 1% are paying less of. And guess what? The House just passed a bill saying that our debt was going to increase by $4 trillion more, meaning your tax dollars are going to go to paying more of servicing that debt instead of building anything that this country actually needs. And even with these generous tax cuts, the top 1% and the wealthy corporations have still stashed $4 trillion of money that should have gone into this country overseas, into the Cayman Islands and a whole bunch of other offshore accounts. So when you add up that $1.1 trillion in the tax cuts of 2017 plus the $4 trillion that's held overseas, not into this economy, that is over $5 trillion in tax revenue that should have gone to helping veterans, to building better roads, to maintaining bridges, to having better public education, to making sure that people who are diabetic could afford their insulin, or anyone suffering from a pre-existing condition could have their medicine affordable due to a better social program that we should be providing. It could have given us a much better education. It could have given us high-speed rail. But no, the wealthy people are having it, and it looks like with this new plan, they're just gutting the golden calf again. And while these wealthy people are keeping that money from you and making your lives better, they're pointing you at Ukraine with that mythical $175 billion. Why is it mythical, you ask? Let me explain. Only $106 billion actually got allocated to Ukraine, as you could see right here. And only $33 billion of that is actual money. The rest is weapons, equipment, and other military support. So military training, but also us just giving Ukraine weaponry that we didn't want to dispose because it's more expensive to do that than to give it to another country for them to use. So your tax dollars already went to those weapons that were made years ago. And most likely we're going to be replenishing the stock of the weapons we would have disposed of without this war happening. And I just want to reiterate this. So that $33 billion of actual money compared to the $4 trillion that the wealthy managed to get out of tax avoidance and holding it overseas, along with that $1.1 trillion in the tax cuts. So that $33 billion is about 1/160th of the money that was kept from you into your economy. That money that we've sent to the Ukraine is about a little bit over 0.5% of the money that the rich and the corporations are keeping from you. And this is a trick as old as time. The very wealthy are stealing right in front of you, to your face, but they're telling you, look the other way at this group of people who've actually done nothing to harm you and aren't actually the cause of any of your pains. Now, I'm fine with people saying that they don't want their tax dollars being used to fund foreign wars, but I want to know, why are you okay with hundreds of times that amount being spent to make rich people even richer and not putting the money back in America? I am the Geo Husar, and don't let yourselves be hoodwinked on behalf of the wealthy. Thanks for watching. If you find the post I just made useful, educational, informative, please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube, but the strongest form of support that you can give me would be signing up for my Patreon. Thanks.